Good morning, everyone. I'm coming to you from my 11th grade U.S. history classroom here in San Diego, California. I'm Stephen Logan. A lot of you may know me as Stevie. It's been a while since you've seen me, so I probably look a little bit different. But I'm here to talk to you about a piece of church history that I studied in depth and is very personally connected to me. And the short amount of time that I have is not enough, but I do just want to take a few moments to kind of give some context. It was in like 2000 and must have been like 2003. We had a real bad storm, and I think we were getting ready to go on a youth choir trip, and we had to go home, and the basement of my house had flooded, and we brought up all these photos and stuff from way back in the day, and there amongst the photos was some pictures of my grandfather, William Zuschnitt, and some of the guys from the Men's Brotherhood, the predecessor to the United Methodist Men. And my grandfather was the white interlocutor in a blackface show, and there were the Men's Brotherhood all dressed up in blackface. And to be honest, I was really taken aback. I had been raised in school to believe that racism and that type of like stuff was something that happened in the South. It wasn't the case in Westchester, and why would this clear exhibition of racist behavior be occurring in the 1950s, no less, and at a place that I really had grown up trusting, and it was really hard. And it sat with me for a while, and I kind of sat with it. And when I got to be a senior or junior in college in 2006, 2007, I started to think about what I was going to do for my honors thesis, and I decided to look in depth into the minstrel shows. And that was an experience that was profound for a number of ways. And what I ended up finding out was sort of, instead of it being some sort of action of explicit overt racism, it was something much more insidious, which is like acting out on a narrative that had been passed down. And if you don't know the history of minstrelsy, in the 1840s, a guy from the North went down to a plantation in the South. He saw an African-American enslaved person acting out some song and dance, took that, went back up north, created a whole entire show based upon those stereotypes, and then took those stereotypes on the road. It became the most popular form of American entertainment. It was like, think of top 40 hits nationwide. There was minstrel shows everywhere, and it was the most popular form of U.S. entertainment up until like the mid-1900s. And what that did, though, was it set it up so that when it stopped becoming professionally popular, it was still amateur popular. And so they actually put out guidebooks for schools and churches, Masonic groups, Boy Scout troops, to put on minstrel shows as a fundraiser. And that is what was happening at the church. At that time, the church was struggling financially. Like, it almost closed its doors in the 1940s, in the late 1940s. And so here's my grandfather, William Zuschnitt, and some other folks in the Men's Brotherhood trying to collect some money. But what they ended up doing was acting out on a pretty gnarly set of racist ideals and stereotypes that have been really inculcated into multiple generations of Americans. And so what's really cool is that at the end of that time period, by the end of the 1950s, a pastor by the name of Willis C. Tabor from one of the African-American churches here in Westchester wrote a pretty scathing editorial in the Daily Local News calling the church out for putting on those shows because it went counter to Christian values. And to the church's credit, I think I didn't have evidence to tell me that this actually happened, but the next year was the last year they did them, and that was it. And shortly thereafter, the United Methodist Church here at Grove started to get more deeply involved in issues related to race. And there hasn't always been an agreement on whether or not that's something that should have been done. But it's a turning point there, and so I think it's really important. My initial reaction coming across this was, oh no, and I have a deeper appreciation now for why it's oh no. We can be captured by narratives of the past and not even know that we're still acting out on them in the present. And I think uncovering that this narrative that was passed down to these folks, that they unwittingly acted out, thinking that they weren't doing any harm. I had an opportunity to interview a couple members of the show, and these were people that I trusted. Really, Pete Moses, Ed Kirchen, guys that helped raise me, and they were adamant that, hey, we didn't think we were doing anything wrong here, and I believed them. And I think that's important to understand, that we can use these things as learning experiences just as much as we can use them as oh no experiences. So I think I went a little past my allotted time, but that's okay. I hope. Please, anyone's willing to ask me questions. Pastor and Kathy have my contact information. Be happy to chat with anyone if you have anything else you'd like to chat about. So, thanks.